Saw this earlier this morning. Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press reporting on the hearing in Florida on whether or not free agent cornerback Terrion Arnold will be required to wear a GPS device while he's on home confinement, awaiting trial on 8 different felony charges. It all arises from that armed robbery and kidnapping that happened in February. I may have mentioned earlier in this week the item in The Athletic that takes a close look at everything that happened, allegedly or actually. The only question is whether or not Terrion Arnold knew what these other folks were doing, because the text messages make it clear. Some saw this earlier this morning. Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press reporting on the hearing in Florida on whether or not free agent cornerback Terrion Arnold will be required to wear a GPS device while he's on home confinement, awaiting trial on 8 different felony charges. It all arises from that armed robbery and kidnapping that happened in February. I may have mentioned earlier in this week the item in The Athletic that takes a close look at everything that happened, allegedly or actually. The only question is whether or not Terrion Arnold knew what these other folks were doing, because the text messages make it clear somebody was doing something in an effort to recover the property that had been stolen from the Airbnb that Terrion Arnold had rented. The items stolen included $100,000 in cash that he had planned to play blackjack and roulette with at the Hard Rock Casino. I guess the end result's the same. He lost the money. He just lost it in a much more immediate and direct way. So one of the lingering questions had been, who are the interested teams? Because if he's on a team, then the requirement to wear the GPS device shouldn't attach. That's why the judge initially ruled that he shouldn't have to wear it. Reluctantly, but the judge ruled, playing football, doesn't have to wear it. He's on home confinement, and that's that. Once the Lions cut him, the prosecution said, hey, he's not on a team. He should wear the device like everybody else on home confinement. So the goal was to convince the court that he has a real prospect of being signed by a team. And I had been saying, it's cards on the table time. Who are the teams? His agent. Now, there was a suggestion at some point this week by the Detroit News that Arnold would testify himself. It's never a good idea to put criminal defendant on the stand and have him partially waive his Fifth Amendment rights. You never know what the cross-examination is going to be. But as it relates to proving that teams are interested, how do you do it? His agent, Nicole Lynn, the person who would be doing the communicating with the team, she testified. She testified that 4 teams have inquired. Remember, they initially said there were 3. Well, since then, there's been a 4th one: the Colts, the Jets, the Seahawks, and the Texans. And she also said he visited and worked out for the Texans. Now, that has yet to show up in the NFL's daily transaction report. There's sometimes a lag that is built into the system. It may be in today's report. But she said it happened. And she said there's a very good likelihood he'll be signed within the next 45 days. As of last week, his lawyer, Harvey Steinberg, had written to the court that Arnold expected to sign within 30 days. So something has extended the window a little bit, but that's where it stands. And it worked. The judge decided not to require Terrion Arnold to wear the GPS device. Now, whether that results in someone signing him is a different issue. A lot of times when a guy works out with a team, if he doesn't sign right away, they're not signing him. And we don't know any other details. Did they bring in 6 guys? We'll see that typically during the season. They bring in 6, they sign 1. So showing interest, inquiring, bringing a guy in for a visit and a workout, that's not the same as signing. He's still unsigned. He may not be signed. We don't know. But he doesn't have to wear the GPS device. And the other thing that, I don't know if it came up during the hearing. I couldn't find it streaming. The last hearing was streaming on YouTube. If he signs, are they going to put him on paid leave? That would be my number one concern. If I'm a team that is interested in signing Terrion Arnold, is he going to be on the commissioner exempt list the day after I sign? The NFL has no reason to do anything. The NFL doesn't like to create news when it's not absolutely necessary. There's no reason to put him on paid leave if he's not on a team. He's on a team. All right, now we got to put him on paid leave. And there's going to be a story. And there's going to be idiots like me talking about it. So for now, all we talk about is the possibility he ends up on paid leave if he signs with a team. But that is risk number one if you sign him. Do you sign him one day and have him placed on paid leave the next, unable to practice or play with the team? I personally think no one's going to sign him until he resolves these charges in a way that means he's free and clear and able to play. Now, he could very well be suspended at some point, but I just find it hard to believe because he's not a guy that's lived up to his first-round potential. You know, it's coincidental, not ironic, but coincidental that both the Colts and the Jets are among the 4 teams because Sauce Gardner, the former Jet, now member of the Colts, he was an all-pro his first 2 seasons. If Arnold had played that way, he'd still be on the Lions, period. And if they had cut him and he had played that way, he'd already be on another team, but they wouldn't have cut him. So that's a factor too. It's the sliding scale. If you're good enough, you overcome any of these off-field issues. If you're not, the off-field issues become an impediment to your career. All right, now.
What if the Cowboys found a young cornerback with first-round talent sitting in the middle of one of the most complicated situations in the entire NFL? Cowboys Nation, stay locked in because this Terrion Arnold conversation is not simple, it is not clean, and it is definitely not something you treat like a normal free agent rumor. Let me say, comes with serious legal questions that must be resolved before anybody talks about football like nothing happened. That matters. That is real. But in the NFL, front offices monitor everything, and if Arnold's legal situation ever clears up, if the league does not block him from playing, and if the price becomes low enough because of all the risk around him, then yes, Dallas should at least understand the football side of the conversation. Not blindly chase it, not ignore the red flags, not pretend talent erases everything, but evaluate it like a serious football operation. Because on the field, Terrion Arnold was a first-round corner for a reason. He has the athletic profile, the competitiveness, the length, the confidence, and the Alabama background that makes teams believe there is still something there to develop. And Cowboys fans know this league is built on pressure. You can never have enough corners. You can never have enough athletes who can run, mirror, challenge routes, and make quarterbacks think twice before attacking the outside. If Dallas ever reached a point where the legal cloud was gone and Arnold was truly available as a football-only decision, the question becomes this: could he help the Cowboys turn their secondary into a problem for the NFC East? Come on now, that is where the football imagination starts. Picture a defense that can line up with more speed, more man coverage ability, more young energy, and more confidence on the outside. Picture Dallas forcing rival quarterbacks to hold the ball because the first read is covered. That extra half second, that is everything. That is when the pass rush arrives. That is when the pocket collapses. That is when throws get rushed, windows close, and quarterbacks start making mistakes. That is how you expose QBs. That is how you destroy passing rhythm. That is how you make secondaries feel aggressive instead of desperate. And if the Cowboys want to destroy the NFC East, they need defensive backs who can survive in space, tackle with attitude, and play with that fearless edge. Philadelphia wants to attack matchups? Fine, make every throw contested. Washington wants quick rhythm? Break the timing before the route even develops. New York wants easy completions to stay alive? Slam the windows shut and force them to earn every single yard. That is the dream version. That is the football upside. But Cowboys Nation, listen closely because this is where smart fans separate hype from reality. Arnold would only make sense if the legal process is resolved in a way that removes the biggest risk. You cannot bring chaos into the building just because a player was once a first-round pick. The Cowboys cannot afford distractions that derail the locker room. They cannot afford to sign a player and then watch him get placed on paid leave before he even practices. They cannot afford to gamble blindly when the goal is winning football games right now. So this is not Jerry, go sign him today. No, no, no. This is Jerry, keep the file open, watch the situation, and if the smoke clears, evaluate the player hard. That is the difference. That is grown-up roster building. Because if Arnold is cleared, if he is available, and if the contract is controlled, then the upside becomes very interesting. A young corner with something to prove, a player who would need to rebuild trust, rebuild his name, and rebuild his career. And sometimes when a player gets a second chance under the right structure, with the right accountability, surrounded by veterans and a strong locker room, that player comes in hungry, not comfortable, hungry. And Dallas needs defensive-hungry players. Dallas needs defensive backs who want to challenge throws, who want to punish hesitation, who want to make quarterbacks look at the sideline like, where do I even go with the ball? That is the kind of defense that gives Dak Prescott more possessions, gives the offense better field position, and turns close games into statement games. Because do not forget, defense helps offense. A covered receiver leads to a pressured throw. A pressured throw leads to a tipped ball. A tipped ball leads to a turnover. A turnover leads to Dak, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and the offense walking back onto the field with momentum. That is how Dallas takes over games. That is how the star starts feeling dangerous again. My final take is simple. Terrion Arnold to the Cowboys is a high-risk, highly speculative idea, and Dallas should not touch it unless the legal situation is fully cleared and the football operation is completely comfortable. But if that day ever comes, the Cowboys should at least study the upside, because young corner talent is valuable, and a motivated Arnold could help Dallas close passing windows, expose quarterbacks, and make the NFC East uncomfortable. Cowboys Nation, now I need your voice. Would you even consider Terrion Arnold if everything off the field gets resolved, or is the risk too much no matter what? Drop your opinion below. Hit that like button if you want the Cowboys to build a tougher, smarter defense, and subscribe for more Cowboys news, rumors, and real fan reaction. Because in Dallas, every move has to be about one thing: protecting the star and building a team dangerous enough to take over the NFC East.